Hello, storyteller, storytelling Ron. I want to talk about new GMs for the Lord RPG because I just got an email. I've been talking to somebody, and I got an email, and he it definitely like made me kind of pause for a sec. Kind of a bummer experience. He played with his two kids a play test of for the Lord RPG, but he did like sort of stuff that I'm a 45-year veteran, a GM of mini games. And he did something that, he was new at it. So I think he's played a couple other things, but he doesn't know how to GM or something like that based on what I recall in the emails. But he did something that I would never have done, or a couple of things. But the thing I realized was that I might have misled him in my booklet because of the way I laid out the adventures. And he basically just had his kids play where they went up against a couple of Roman soldiers who are like cursed undead Roman soldiers in just a play test, an encounter. And to me, that's the worst thing you could do. And I'm not trying to dog him at all. It's been good emails, but I don't think I made it very clear and as well. I'm still sort of working on the RPG as far as the booklets and the rules and then how to lay it all out. And I was kind of throwing together a bunch of adventures that you could do, but I really thought that he would, I assumed that he would pick, or anyone would pick the easiest type of adventures first. Also, he didn't have them role play. He just went right into combat. And role playing is like the biggest part or most important thing to get your players really into, attached to the characters, attached to the setting, emotionally attached, and then realizing, I gotta think, because in this game especially, you're a Christian, you gotta convert, you gotta work on your evangelism, and he kind of skipped all that and just went right into the combat. And the combat is a slog. It's a slog in any game if you're first level and you go up against hard creatures. And of course, he said it was a slog, and they lost. And he mentioned armor saves, and to me, I'm going to do a video here eventually outside in my Pell and kind of explain the combat, how I interpreted it based on medieval armored combat, and how I do this stuff and how I hit people a lot and they get an armor. I can tell they get an armor save. The armor absorbs much of the damage, even when I hit them, even in a good spot. The armor absorbs it. So that's my experience there, and I'll get to that at some point in the video when it gets a little warmer and I get a little more in shape after the holidays. But it was a bummer for me to hear that he, his son got bored with it. And I'm like, first off, it sounded like he had two players as two kids. So I don't ever like to do two players. To me, that's the worst experience. I'm a 45-year veteran and I don't like doing two players. I hate it, actually. Doing two players it's the chemistry between just two people when you're in the GM is not good. They just have this, and it becomes almost like they don't know what to do because they're constantly like, what do we do? I don't know. What do you do? I don't know. What do you do? It slows down the game, I can tell. And when there's a third person there's going to be a 2-to-1 type of thing, and it's going to move much quicker as far as making decisions and doing things. And usually one ends up being kind of a leader, not a leader, but someone who pushes forward the story quicker than the other two, and the other two follow along because they don't want to, make those decisions. They just want to roll dice and hit things or whatever. When it's just two people, when one of them becomes the leader, it's more obvious, and then the other one kind of gets resentful. I can tell, and then there's a fight. It's like a slowdown of the game and a weirdness. I don't like it. So if I ever have just two people showing up, I'm like, oh my God, can I please I'm sick, I don't want to do two people anymore. It's not good. Okay. Bad experience. Anyway, so let me just show you real quick some stuff here. For new GMs, definitely don't do two players. And if you do two players, realize it's going to be kind of weird and slowy, and you got to get the wife in there. If you got two kids, get the wife, get the granny, get anyone will. And they can play, man. I had my sisters who don't play D&D, and my older sister play, and like the aunts with my daughters, and they're fine. It's very easy. And I don't even explain the game. Like they played D&D, and I had them play a little bit of this once, but I haven't been able to get them around to it yet. But you don't explain the game to someone when they're new. Just play it. Just give them a character. Just tell them what do you do, and I'll interpret it based on the rules. Just let me, you got this, explain the gear and whatever. But they just kind of do whatever. All right. So yeah, he did. I guess he just kind of jumped to this. He said page 61. He just jumped to encountering basically the 2 Roman soldiers, and the characters died. But if you look, these guys have a really high armor save here, D6 and a D4. So it's 2 dice, which is rare. And the D4 is unholy, so that makes it even harder. So they're never going to really hit these guys. Defense 13 is easy to hit them, but they just have a really good armor save. So and it's meant to be. These are meant to be a little scarier. To fight. And he should have, I wish that he would have had them go up against like this. Well, this is, see, this is my bad. Even this is meant to be a more challenging encounter with the gladiator who's angry at Christians because they ended the gladiator thing. Let me see what else. So in this is, and by the way, this I'm showing you is the early free PDF of the early game. So I've done a lot of changes since then. Nothing to break the game, but like just polishing and some edit, rule clarifications. Same game essentially, but the free PDF has everything from the rules to these adventures to the creatures. And I'm discontinuing this, so it's not part of the thing. But I had a couple of adventures examples in the back, just to show you, and I kind of just threw them in there, not in a good order, like for a beginning GM. I didn't really do it for a beginning GM. I did it based on just what I as an experienced GM kind of set up, and I picked and chose and I knew who personally to pick and choose which one to use first as a beginning play for characters or players, and I didn't think about that when I put it together for the booklet. I just put them in sort of the geographical order. Or whatever their encounter, but I should have made it really, I should have laid it out so that it was here. Do this first as a beginning GM. I should have done that. I'm one guy here just trying to figure out so many different things on this game that I kind of overlooked that. It's not in here. Okay, so. Let me go to this. I am making a supplement. I've got like 30 pages. And I'm just trying to fill it all out. But this one, and I'm going to be more aware of what he said, is going to be called The Legacy of Logano. And this is a region, the beginning region of the map that I provide. And it kind of shows like this is the basic area of that blown up area of the Lake du Logano. And all the adventures take place around this. So the characters kind of come up in here from Milan, which is down south. They come into Toravio, then they go to the slave mines, and go to the Barrow-wights, and kind of move around this way. It's sort of the adventure, although you could zigzag them around. Because technically in this game, you can go up against the cursed Roman soldiers, but they only had 2 players. And they didn't know how to use glory, which is the counter to that. The Holy Knight has glory, which counters unholy armor. They didn't, they're just playing. They just played like a warrior and a scout, so they didn't really even have a cleric to heal them or to bless them. You kind of need all the different characters to really go up against the unholy stuff, the undead Barrow-wight stuff. So they didn't really do that either. So I'm bummed. I'm bummed about that email. And that's to me the heavier emails. Trolls are not that big of a deal, but someone that had a sad experience with his son. That's a bummer for this game. And I'm going to bring it, I'm going to say it because it's fine. I'm not insecure about my, GMing skills or my game. I'm a little insecure in the sense of like, I didn't think about that. I didn't cover that for new GMs to go through. But in the supplement here, see, I have them traveling first. And this is the first adventure that they should get to. And I should probably just have them, go progress through this, especially for new players. And in the traveling part, and I've done this in the YouTube series, when they first go out as new players, they got to travel through to a forest, and then at the entrance to the forest is a witch and her two mean-looking sons, and they want an offering to get to safely go through the forest. Give us an offering to Pan, the god of the forest, and you will have safe travels through. See, so there's the dilemma right there. So that's role playing. Immediately, it's role playing, and the guys are not. Their intent is not to fight. The intent of these guys is just to intimidate, so that people will give bigger offerings. And if they, in order for them to fight, the characters would have to make some pretty bad rolls as far as preaching or society role, debating or whatever they're going to try to persuasion rolls. If they made them like a nat 1, then there might be a little bit of a combat. And the guys are meant to be not that tough, They only got a D2 save on armor. Their vigor is 7, which is low. They're just malnourished. I know he looks big and fat, but he's unhealthy. The dagger and the axe is a little. The bigger guy but he's slow. Okay, he's a little bit tougher, and his 9 vigor. D10 axe, so be careful there. But they're not that tough. They only got a D2 save. So, and they will run away pretty quickly if you hurt them. So that's the combat. Most of the combat there's denouement, and if ever you do anything on them or hurt them or preach or maybe surround them or flank them, I will roll a denouement to see if they want to surrender or run away. Most of the pagans are not going to want to fight to the death, unless there's and this witch is not to me going to persuade them. She's an overbearing pagan mother, but she has 4 magic points, forces sons to do her bidding, vile intimidation, but she won't. Personally, I wouldn't make them fight to the death, right? I would just make her. She does other things to make them go do other things. Like they comply with her. Go set the traps, and they have local wolves, and there's a boar in a gully that's blocking the way. So if they don't give an offering at the altar, the sons will then leave into the deep forest and set some traps. With the wolves and a boar in the gully, and it forces the characters to have to go past these things in the forest that they have to deal with these beasts. And so, I make it so that there's a bit of role playing with the witch or the mother and the sons, and I like that if you want a safe passage, give an offering. See, I like that puts the Christians in a dilemma immediately, and they have to think, well, what do I do? There's and then maybe they're going to try to evangelize them, which they could try to do as well. And obviously their spirit here. So I think what she would do is if she has a spirit of 2 and intelligence of 2, so she's pretty low, 4 magic points. I basically, 2 plus maybe she has a D4, bonus skill, whatever. But she will try to use her magic to keep them from being converted to Christianity, right? She'll spend a point or 2 to give them an extra save or whatever. And their spirit is -2, so they're gullible. So they can be, and in the game, like they use food to get the big guy, the big brother, fooled him and convinced, and they use food and got them to like be chill, not, and then they would leave and go through the forest, and of course the mother would make them go set the traps. So something simple like that, giving them when you first GM something, you want to give them a simple dilemma that they got to deal with as a role playing thing. You don't want to just go into combat. Combat is meant to be a little tenuous, scary, a little. Definitely, you get into like having tough dice that make the decisions for you. And then here, the Ravio is where there's a dilemma of the slavery, and when they come into the village, they're going to see them selling slaves. And they got to deal with that. And by the way, this mine here, this mine goes up, and then there's the mine entrance, and then this is the mine, or here, this is the mine. I fit it on one page here, but this is an example of what you can do on your table or at your VTT. You kind of make your own kind of version of this. But this is my one, and I played it on the role playing thing or on YouTube with actors who never played a role playing game before. I mean, most of them did not ever even play a role playing game. They knew the rules of to act and to be engaged, and I paid them because I was trying to do a show. But they played it quite well as far as like understanding what to do and be engaged. And so or I didn't pay the initial ones. I paid later on, but the initial ones I said, look, we're trying to create a show and that kind of thing. But I eventually paid people in it. But anyway, not anymore. I'm just like, I'm just kind of chilling now. I'm role playing online on YouTube. I'm doing the Christians in Space one, but I'm just kind of chilling. I'm not telling them like, what to do or not to do, or, and I don't edit, or I'm not trying to make it like streamlined or clean. I'm just doing it like blah. And kind of the reason too as well. I don't know if it's lazy. I just don't like to edit anymore. I don't want to edit. I don't want to go down that path. I don't want to be stuck editing. If I got a ton of subscribers because of my edits, that means I'd have to edit more. And I don't want to edit. I want to work on the game and work on the drawings and work on other stuff and work on the ministry. But I should edit, but I just don't have any inclination to do it. Anyway, so the village here, when they come to the village, the first thing they're going to see is the slave. They're sort of preparing their sons to be sold off, or not sold off, but enslaved to the what are they called? The horned ones who run the mines. So they're basically sacrificing their sons as slaves to the pagan horned ones, and that's what the Christians come into and deal with. So an intense moral dilemma is what you got is the best encounter. Combat comes later. Combat comes when this intense moral encounter flubs, when you mess it up, when it, there's always going to be an inevitable wall that you hit, which is the combat encounter. But before that, you want to have a bunch of moral dilemma role-playing things to really get the characters going. You can't just put them in a combat test. You can't test the game. You can't test it as far as let's do a little combat test. That's not going to, maybe with you and some adults, that's fine. Just to test it. But with kids, I would not test it. I would get them into a moral dilemma, role play, and you role play the jerks. And when you play the pagans, set up a couple of words there that for the pagans to use as their sort of nomenclature. The pan forest god, or the dragon spirit, or the elf spirits in the forest, or whatever terms they like to use over and over as their pagan methodology, and what it is that they want. They always obviously want to sacrifice an offering to get some material gain or something, in return. And that's their cycle, and they like that cycle, and it works for them, and they want to keep it. So I played with my daughter finally, who's loved 5e, who loved playing male characters, like women that act like men. She's 19 now, but so she's not in the age necessarily where she wants to role play anymore. She's very busy with her work and life and friends and all that. So even though I'm gonna go back to my regular video here. So as you know, I'm very on this channel, I'm very hardcore with, don't play 5e, don't play role-playing games, and I'm gonna stay that way. But because that's what a Christian can do. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. I can say role-playing games are bad and still love people who play role-playing games, because Jesus said love the enemy. So I'm saying my daughter is the enemy. She's the enemy in the sense of she's my daughter's daughter, but she's the enemy in the sense of like she still likes 5e. She still likes playing those regular pagan role playing games. Although she doesn't play them now, but she has the great memories of us playing it together. So her memories of it is me and her, and me. And I used her as my guinea pig, and played a bunch of one-on-one role playing games with her, or 5e. We had some epic stuff, man. It was fun. I did some epic stuff with her. It's epic. I created all kinds of, I created an entire world for her to deal with, and she had two characters, a ranger and a druid, elf, both elf hard. So it's a hardcore elf adventure. She was hardcore with her magic and her skills. And she had I did skirmish battles with her, and she had some knights working with her, and blah, blah, blah. So she has fond memories of 5e, and she doesn't like what I'm doing now, in a sense. She's Christian. She's Jesus freak, but she doesn't like the whole woman thing. that I'm doing where you can't be a man and you can't use a battle axe and you have a weaker stats, like her aggression and stuff. She didn't like it. So her and her courter, not a boyfriend, she has a courter. She has someone we discussed marriage and courting. So right out in the open. And he's from the church too. So he's a good guy. So we, he wants to play. So he was the one actually pushing for her to play and being good about it. And we ended up playing last night. Was it last night? The night before, on my birthday. But this is after me eating a lot of her food she made. She made a duck. She made a peppercorn steak, whatever French steak for fur, or whatever the French word for peppers are or something. Steak parr, and duck, and all kinds of crazy stuff. I should post a picture. But so she did all that. It was really amazing. And I drank a really good bottle of red wine. I'm going to brag a little. $125 bottle of red wine. And it was freaking good. Which kind of annoying, that as I go up in prices of bottles, they actually do taste better. And it was a Cabernet Sauvignon, which I don't like full-bodied wines technically, but I bought it, and I had 2 of them, but I bought it and was going to save it for a special occasion. I was like, well, my birthday, I don't like full-bodied, but this is a nice bottle, I guess. I haven't had it yet in a while, or I haven't had it, and then I had it, and I was like, dang. Even though it's full-bodied, it was smooth, very smooth for a full-bodied. Usually full-bodied would have a little bit of a stronger tannins or aftertaste. But anyway, one thing I'm talking about wine now. One thing I notice about wine as it gets more and more expensive, or whatever, is I can tell it's like it's got less and less taste. It's more, it's like more and more subtle. It's almost like they filter out stuff. It's interesting. But so what am I talking about? Daughter. So my daughter played the other night with her courter and my wife, who was exhausted. We started at freaking 10 p.m. I was already like, and we cleaned up all the table. It took forever. And the older daughter and her husband left finally. I had to kick my older daughter out. No, that was good though. But, so can you, I can't do this. I can't 10 p.m. at night after all I just said. And I'm full. But you know what? It turned out pretty neat. So what happened? So I gave to my daughter her character, and she was a woman. She was the patron lady, and then her courter was what's the other word? Quarter, and there's another one. Anyway, suitor. Her suitor was the Holy Knight. He's never played a role playing game ever. So imagine that. Church guy. Grew up in the church. So anyway, then the wife played the nun, but she was tired. Man, I'm kind of bummed out that I did this for her, but she was so exhausted. But she still played well. Anyway, so and the first thing is I had them go into the village, and I just put it on the table, little cutouts. Just quickly put 4 buildings down, and so the concept was the village worshipped a dragon, and there's a witch in their village, and at the end was a totem. I put the little altar piece at the end there so that they saw that there was offerings being put there. But basically, the witch just feeds the dragon, and then supposedly it protects the village. And so the villagers all worship the dragon because it protected them from barbarians and everyone else. And so they don't want you to interfere with their little, deal. And so that's it. That's the basic adventure. And so when they come to the village, the villagers will say, "Oh, nice Christians. Yeah, we offer to the dragon and we are safe. The dragon protects us. And so we don't need your Christianity." And my daughter was like, what? So she had a hard time evangelizing. And I'm like, see, and I was talking to her later. It's like, see, this game helps you say the words that you never would say ever. Yet here we are. We Christians are told to say stuff like this. Yet we never say stuff like this. And she had to formulate words physically, like at the table to counter we have a dragon and we worship the dragon. We give the dragon offerings, so we don't need you. We are happy here. I kind of did my silly voices and stuff. And whenever they said something, I would come up with a snide, mocking, scoffing remark, because I'm playing the pagans, and that's exactly what you and I encounter. And she and mom and the suitor had to like respond and role play. And it didn't go well for them. You know, the first time they ever played. I mean, the game went well, the story. And she was like, I'm going to bring, you know, I gave her a character and told her like kind of what she had, because I did cooking because she's a chef. But she's all, well, I'm going to have paintings and artwork. And so she got into it like pretty quickly as the woman, you know, as a woman. She's like, I collect artwork and I want to bring that to the locals and show them, you know, the love for Christ and all that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you can, that's fine. We didn't get into that part enough because I was trying to rush them along as a one shot, and I saw my wife, you know, and we went till midnight, which I was really bummed that I made my wife do that, because I thought it was like I just thought it was 11 when we were finishing, and it was midnight. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, honey. But she did get into it, and I talked to her later. She goes, yeah, okay, you know, and she didn't charge up when they fought the dragon. I definitely wanted to give them, you know, the witch ran off and got the dragon, and they fought a couple of her goons, bandits, you know, because you know every witch is gonna have some goons that make a threat. And the villagers, you know, were not persuaded or evangelized, so they ran off and hid. And they ended up using different things to deal with this little dragon. And I made it a weak dragon, not a tough, you know, not a scary, you know, it's like a big giant lizard kind of thing. You know, because I didn't, you know, the armor save on it was low, was a D6. Like I said, when you do a first, you know, like the new GMs, when you do a first thing, keep it low. I know I have a dragon, but I brought it down. I brought down the D6, basically D6 armor save and a D6 bite. You know, in a +4 attack, aggression. And that was it. That was the basics of the dragon. No extra tail whip or anything else, because it was just 3 characters. It was just a nun, a patron lady, and a holy knight. And the knight, you know, he was using his glory, which helped to try to get through the armor of the dragon. The dragon had 14 vigor, I think. When they fought that, they fought the bandits earlier, and you know, beat them, didn't kill them. And actually dropped the son, one of them down to 0, and then the villagers are like, "This is my son," you know. So they're like, "Oh," you know. So the nun quickly came up to heal the bandit, and then when she did, and you know, the players were nervous because the bandit was a son of one of the villagers. You know, you don't get that in D&D. In D&D, you kill the bandits and save the village. Well, the bandits are probably related to the villagers. So now what? You know. So she healed them, and that made it better for them. And, you know, and they try to preach while healing, but they didn't do so well. So the villagers still did not support them. And then they still had to deal with the witch who brought the dragon. And the witch brought the dragon using food and drugs. So that's another important thing when you have a witch or an oppressor, is they use something druggy, something to lure the beast or the warrior or their faction into lulling them or turning them into a cocaine-filled rage or a love potion. That's historically accurate. They did all that, you know, to get their warriors all religiously. Another one is opiates. You know, they'll get opiates or what do the Indians use? Peyote to have rituals and pagan rituals to get their warriors all, you know, and then become cultic, you know, zealots, fanatical. So she did that with the dragon. She was like a fishpole holding up a food that brought the dragon into, you know, and the food in the thing was a drug-addled meat. And the patron lady used her crossbow to shoot the arm of the witch to drop the food, which made the dragon, instead of attack them, go for the food and go crazy on the food. So that was like a decoy. And when she shot, she freaking hit like a 20. You know, she did the whole going for the arm and getting a penalty. But if you roll minus D4, the rule for I notice this a lot too with players, especially new players. They want to hit a specific target, like the arm, the head, the eye, you know, whatever, the leg, whatever they want to do. So I'm like, all right, what kind of rule? So minus D4, and you can hit them normally. But if your result is above a 20, you hit that limb, and it affects them, you know, story-wise, narratively, based on hitting them there. Now, if you hit them in the head, it doesn't necessarily kill them, but I will make them be very stunned or have to deal with that, you know, arrow in their head or you know, whatever it is. I will make it pretty severe if they don't have a helmet, especially. But you need to roll. The result needs to go above a 20 for that to be specifically on the limb that they said. So, but she did it. She got above a 20. And I was like, oh, okay. You hit her arm. She drops the food. The dragon, went for the food. And it was like a little velociraptor kind of thing. Cause that's what dragons are. And it's funny because even the suitor said, "Oh, I go for the dinosaur." I'm like, What's a dinosaur? All I see here is a dragon, But I like that because that teaches the kids. I'm not a kid, but kids that dinosaurs were back then. They were dragons. So anyway, the game turned out really well for all the negatives that I was dealing with to play the GM the game. I quickened. It was a quick game, but my daughter saw, oh yeah, I can play this woman. It was interesting to her. She finally realized how interesting it was, and she could do stuff that affected the combat. She did do stuff that affected the combat, but she did it in a way of a woman. She didn't just charge up like a fool. She had to think. She had to strategize. Figure something out. She didn't just she didn't want to face the dragon. She realized that she was too weak to do that, and women need to realize that you can't just run up to someone as a woman. You're going to get clobbered. So she and the nun came up with other things to do during the dragon fight, and there was a kind of the knight went around and they used fire to keep the dragon away from the women, and then he had to go around, and the witch brought the dragon around. Took her a while, so they got some extra shots. So there was like a strategy that they used, and then there was a fire there, and they had to deal with that because they didn't want to burn the village down, etc., etc., etc. So it was a fun way of you just don't charge and attack, and that's what all role-playing games really end up being. Pagans, we just attack, and that's sort of that kind of actually how history is really. All right, so this is my rambling little bit about new GMs and my additional experience with the role-playing game and having a great time with it. But again, if you're a new GM, if you're into this or trying to get into this, start small. Start simple with the village, with the pagan concept, and make sure there's role playing and and that whole evangelism preaching kind of fun. Oh my gosh, I got to say something. Or a moral dilemma. Make sure they have a moral dilemma like the forest path choice, or the moral dilemma of seeing slaves, sacrificial slaves being offered for the mine operation, or the one where they come in and they worship a dragon and just say, we worship this dragon, and go away Christians. They give them a moral dilemma so that they got to figure out how to deal with that. And then as they progress in the story, you can start creating more and more, and you kind of want to maybe discuss it with them or see who's up for it. But you can do more and more creepier stuff and scarier stuff and mines and the undead Roman soldiers and bigger dragons and humans that are more like trolls or ogres. You can definitely do that as long as the characters start to understand the combat system and the weak strengths and weaknesses of it, and especially the strengths and weaknesses of blessings. You really do need a cleric. You really do need a holy knight with glory to deal with some of the unholy stuff that's going on in there. So, okay, it's really a great game. I'm trying to start a Wednesday game of the Dark Ages because I haven't really had with like full-on character or players that are characters, not actors or shows. But I really want to delve into this with players. I really need players. I need you. Hardcore Christian ranting, crazy conservative creation, Calvin-y, need you. I need you to, as a player, because it really gets me as a GM, my juices flowing to build up the Dark Ages setting. And I have quite a bit done, but I really want to delve into it more. And actually, most of what I've done here is based off of me role-playing it with the actors and building up on that. And that was really a lot of fun. But now I want hardcore players. So if you're one and you'd like to act, this is literally a request at the end of the video. If you watched me to the end of this video and you're available on Wednesdays, you could be a player in my Wednesday game. I got one person right now, possibly a second. I could use up to 5. 4 to 5 is 3 to 5 is the magic number for that. Although I didn't use magic. Anyway. Okay, so thanks for listening. If you're in, again, Wednesdays, let me know. In the game of life, roll holy dice.